everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Holly. This is the fifth video, the fifth installment to the series I'm doing called Talking Tarot, where we get into all things tarot cards and history, etymology, psychology, all the stuff. So I had a lot of fun researching this one and I can't wait to get into it with you guys. So last week we went over the Page of Swords, and that was very interesting, very dark and brooding there. But Cups is, we already went over the elements a little bit, and our time spent with the elements, we learned that Cups represent our emotions and our higher selves, even our intuition, following gut feelings, the subconscious and unconscious mind, dreams even. We also kind of touched upon how all of these inherently connect and come back to ultimately the divine feminine and the moon. So, oh great mother, the moon. These connotations of the dark and mysterious come with all of those, come with the void, the subconscious. Brahma is a really good word for it. It is here inside of us, our void, that the inner child lives and demands attention constantly. The Page of Cups is symbolic of our inner child, and the deep ocean of feelings that we repress stemming from significant events in our childhood or traumas in our youth. So Carl Jung, a well-known psychologist, I'm pretty sure y'all have probably heard of him, he refers to the inner child as the new self and shared his teacher Sigmund Freud's view on the unconscious, which according to Freud's psychoanalytic theory of personality, quote, is a reservoir of feelings, thoughts, urges, and memories that lie outside of the conscious awareness, end quote. So when we're kids, all of our experience is happening through an emotional lens. As we have limited impulse control, we have limited intellectual skills and verbal fluency, and awareness of long-term consequences. Ultimately, children are super impressionable because of this, and significant events are more likely to have a lasting impact on a kid because of the emotional state that they live in. In the medical journal, American Psychologist, researchers found that, quote, certain cognitive abilities reach adult levels by the age of 16, while emotional maturity isn't attained until after 22, end quote. So we don't even really leave this phase until our mid-20s. That's crazy. Hopefully, though, taking a little detour into developmental psychology could help with explaining why the Page of Cups is in every way representative of our own psychology. Tarot is a mirror, and it's just reflecting back what we're projecting. So a little side note, fun fact, if you will, the Page of Cups is connected to Cancer. Cancer, the astrological sign, is the most emotional, the most troubled, sensitive. Cancer is ruled by the moon. The moon reigns supreme over the realm of emotions and the unconscious mind. Blah blah. So I'm just picking up where I left off because I had to step away for a second. So let's describe the Page of Cups as a person, because this is one of my favorite things to do with the court cards. So kind of the Page of Cups personified is a highly sensitive, overreactionary, kind of easily upset person. I feel like, not to say that this describes an HSP, but I feel like an HSP would really fit and identify a lot with the Page of Cups. For those of you who don't know what an HSP is or what it stands for, it's an acronym for highly sensitive person. This term was actually coined by the psychologist Elaine Aron and her husband Arthur Aron. They co-wrote a book titled The Highly Sensitive Person, and which I highly recommend if you know anybody like who we're describing, or if you yourself identify with being an HSP like I do. Really suggest taking a peek into that book. So, verywellmind.com defines a highly sensitive person as such. Quote, a highly sensitive person, or an HSP, is someone who is thought to have an increased or deeper central nervous system sensitivity to physical, emotional, or social stimuli. Some refer to this as having sensory processing sensitivity, or SPS for short, end quote. That was a heckin' mouthful. They can be accused oftentimes of being too sensitive, easily upset, easily moved to tears. Some empaths are HSPs and vice versa. Some HSPs could be empaths, but you don't have to be both. We're just really sensitive to our environment, energy, other people's energy and emotions. Often we confuse them for our own emotions, and we feel things a lot deeper than most. The page again. As defined as an amateur, inexperienced, unlearned, and one lacking in maturity, is a manifestation of being all those things, but on an emotional level. So, someone without coping skills. They don't know how to handle a new emotion and often acts out because of this. And we see that a lot with children, especially children being in a really tense situation. But on the other hand, Page of Cups can symbolize openness, being willing to try something new. It can mean an expansion of sorts, a growth or ascension, growing spiritually, physically, psychologically. The cups can also symbolize a new emotional event, so the planting of a seed. This could be the start of a new relationship, platonic, romantic, whatever it is. It's of major significance to you. So developing feelings for somebody, a crush. When we see this card come up, we can expect a new relationship in our future, a new person walking into your life that will emotionally affect you, if you will. The Page of Cups represents emotions in a heightened state, but not all emotions that run high are good. So this can speak to sadness, anger, despair. Those feelings that are intense, the ones that society doesn't want to look at. So we grow to learn to repress them and repress those negative feelings instead of learn how to cope and deal with them day to day. So this is very toxic, but it's something that our society really pushes because it doesn't want to look ugly head on. And this card really speaks to that and how important it can be to seek therapy and not to feel shame surrounding bettering your mental health. So this card really speaks to, like I was saying, emotional immaturity. Maybe someone not ready for a long-term commitment. Maybe someone who cracks a joke at a really inappropriate situation, inappropriate timing. This brings me to a story that my professor told my class about funerals he directs, and where kids often act out like this. Knowing it's inappropriate, but act this way because they don't know how to deal with these high emotions, these high tension public situations. And this kind of behavior is most frequently exhibited in children, of course. But that's not to say that adults don't do the same thing. So regardless of the person's age, the Page of Cups could be a naive person. Often could also be described as innocent, like a child, or the purity of a child. I could also picture somebody with attachment issues and relationships in their adult life being affected by these type of things that weren't resolved in their childhood. So all of this relationship forming has a lot to do with emotional intelligence. So I've been saying that emotional intelligence. What is emotional intelligence? Well, helpguide.org defines emotional intelligence as such, quote, emotional intelligence, otherwise known as emotional quotient or EQ, is the ability to understand, use, and manage your own emotions in positive ways to relieve stress, communicate effectively, empathize with others, and overcome challenges and diffuse conflict, end quote. So in other words, we have grown from our pain, and that's really telling of a sign of growth and a sign of maturity is picking yourself up from your bootstraps and kind of learning from those situations or mistakes made in the past. But someone who doesn't grow from those kind of things doesn't learn from their mistakes. So you grow, you learn the skills to deal with these hard feelings and learn coping skills. So, according to Psychology Today, quote, emotional immaturity can be the result of insecure attachments during early life experiences, trauma, untreated addiction or mental health problems, and or a lack of deeper introspection or work on oneself. It can manifest as self-centeredness, narcissism, and poor management of conflict. So, end quote. So we're seeing this poor management of conflict come up again and again, and in multiple resources that I'm finding describing developmental psychology, or that's another red flag for telling emotional intelligence, if you will. So for some further reading, if you're interested in developmental psychology and child attachment, I recommend the works and the studies of Jean Piaget, Lawrence Kohlberg, and Mary Ainsworth were some of the resources I found here as well. And great studies. And when we ultimately don't seek to heal, we stagnate. We stay at the emotional intelligence that we were at before and will always be if you don't grow. So this means we ultimately ignore a lesson available to us, which you know when you see a page that there is a lesson available to you. So that was kind of a lot. I realized that, but I love taking the meaning of this card to a whole new level, and I really enjoyed doing all this research and tying the Page of Cups to psychologically relate to our inner child, which is, I think, really an important and significant nuance of the card. So I really wanted to elaborate that, and I hope you guys enjoyed kind of exploring that with me a little bit. But now that we've painted a pretty good picture of the Page of Cups, let's go see how he does in a reading, shall we? Hello! We're on my floor again. And you know what that means? That means we're going to start reading. So make yourselves comfortable and settle in, because we're going to be talking about how we can read with the Page of Cups. I'm going to get some shuffling out of the way before I put some of these cards down. Oh, she wants to come out. And she wants to come out. And very interesting. So no major arcana, but that's okay. We have a really good reading in front of us here. So the what is it? Eight of Cups. Eight of Cups. So we already know what the Page of Cups means. Eight of Cups is symbolic of escapism, distractions, not giving your attention to the right thing, procrastinating, wanting to escape reality ultimately in a way that's not really healthy. It's kind of just like you'd rather ignore the hard things and kind of focus on the show or the book that you're reading, and so you don't have to think about it. But this is a really avoidant card. And what did we talk about with the Page of Cups? He's very bad with coping skills and kind of an amateur with the emotional intelligence. We're at child level here. We're at elementary level with maturity, emotional maturity, just going through difficult grown-up things is going to be a struggle if you're not ready and prepared for them. So that's what this is right here, unfortunately. A very difficult situation on the horizon. A breakup, maybe, a divorce, a loss. This is grieving, this card is, but it's not so much grieving a death as it is like the loss of a romantic partner, or it just has breakup written all over it, or the death of your hopes and dreams. Let's say that too. So this is a very emotional stab in the heart. Just the ultimate betrayal even. These are very adult kind of themes that we're working with here, and the Page is a child. So the Page is going to have to tap into some growth, is going to have to grow up fast in order to kind of cope with this. But we can tell he doesn't have any good coping skills. It's really lacking in that life experience that's going to give you that arsenal of coping skills, you know, if you choose to move on and grow from these experiences, that is. Those of us who choose not to become those adults that have that elementary inability to cope and that elementary relationship with the world. So when we're avoidant like this, we stay right here. We don't do any growing. When we're avoidant to these kind of things, we repress this negative emotion and this trauma. It's going to come back up later. Psychologists see it all the time. You know, what trauma you go through in your childhood, if you don't deal with it, get some therapy, talk it out, kind of work on that, work on yourself with it. You're just sweeping it under the rug at that point and ignoring its existence, but it crops up in your life in other ways. These problems can manifest in other ways. So it can affect your adult relationships with your family, your significant other, your work, and even your relationship with money. Every aspect in your life, if you're not emotionally grounded, can be turned on its head. So this is very important and a very good reminder not to be avoidant, to look the ugly face on, to kind of not stigmatize mental health. And I can tell that this is kind of what that card is doing with this. It's, you know, scared to go to therapy because they don't want their friends to think they're crazy or something. And they don't want to take care of their mental health because of the stigma. And ultimately, that's kind of an immature way to look at therapy. So to look at our shadows, to look at our inner child, to do that deep work and to grow from it, we can then work on these darker themes. So once we feel emotionally secure enough and ready to look at this stuff, we can, but we can't cope with these ugly emotions and look at them head on and try to work on them and tackle this problem if we're not able to even acknowledge or accept that they exist in the first place. So along with kind of the lines of like procrastination and escapism and trying to avoidant, like avoiding reality, avoiding the issue, just kind of looking the other way, ignoring basically the problem, it's going to manifest in other ways, and it's really never gone. You can ignore something as much as you want, but something of this magnitude is going to manifest in your life whether you like it or not. So this pain, you need to talk it out. You need to seek help, and you need to address this before it starts affecting your life and your relationships and your career and all that. So I really like how the page kind of spoke to these other cards, and it really illustrates for me what I was kind of going over before with the coping skills, the emotional intelligence, if you will, the ability to do the shadow work, the look at the ugly stuff about ourselves, and acknowledge and accept those parts of us so that we can learn from them and grow from them. And ultimately, the more you ignore that type of thing about yourself, it's still there. You're just unaware of it. So this really does speak to coping skills, being self-aware, and not repressing these traumatizing things. So the main message here with the Page of Cups is really not to stop the avoidant behavior and to really look at yourself inside, to really look at the trauma, to really get to a healthy place that you can work on that trauma and develop some coping skills and to grow and heal from those kind of things. Let's do something different. We did a lot of 3-card spreads in the past, and we kind of read them side by side. We didn't read them chronologically where it was beginning, middle, end, which you could, that is an option. But I kind of want to do a different format, so let's have a clarification spread going. So this is going to be different positions for the Page of Cups. Ultimately, the Page of Cups is in the position right now of the you are here on the map. This is you. This position is what do I keep in my life? And this position is what do I let go of in my life? And ultimately, this is the final outcome. So this is what you get when you let go of this and keep this, if that makes sense. So the page is ultimately growing into the Magician. And you know what's really cool about that is, you know how I talked about the major arcana is ultimately the fool's journey through life, and we're all the fool on our own little journeys through life? That is like exactly what is being said right here. This is you at the end of your journey. This is the Fool. And in a lot of ways, the Page of Cups can tie to the Fool, can tie to the Two of Cups as well. In the way that this is your beginning. You are a child, and this is the beginning of your journey. This is you after your chrysalis, your metamorphosis into the adult, this is you after your glow up, growing up, and you aligning with everything with your higher self. So what we need to bring in and keep, we already have this element in our life, so we're not really bringing it in, we're keeping it around. We are good, it turns out, with balance as long as we maintain this kind of moderation, if you will, and let go of this kind of preconceived notion that we have about the world, or prejudice, or this is just kind of telling me to forget everything that you think you know so that you can ultimately relearn and grow. So with balance, we drop that overspending, overabundant, even lack thereof, lack mentality, lack mindset of like hoarding because you don't feel like you have enough. When's the next opportunity you're gonna get this thing? That type of mentality is a lack mentality, and that is what hoarders think with when they bring everything home because everything is sentimental to them. We have to know when to draw the line, if that makes sense, and know what to keep in our lives, and know what's a waste of time, a waste of energy, a waste of space. I think that ultimately this is you cutting off somebody. This is you cutting off a person in your life, dropping a friend. Bye. They're toxic for you, and that's just the vibe I'm getting from that card. Ultimately, you want to be happy and you want this friend, but you can't be your best self and your higher self with this holding you back. And it really sucks that someone you really consider a close friend is being that burden for you. But you know, if they truly cared about you, they wouldn't burden you with something like, that would make them that toxic friend that is acting in a very selfish way and is probably not being so good of an influence on you. So with that out of the picture, we are the magician. And the page learns to grow from incorporating balance, moderation, self-acceptance, and patience. A love for all things, and just kind of a general positivity and optimism. So we can't be that person with this friend kind of influencing us and affecting us. We need to cut them off, as much as that sucks. As much as we've bonded over the years, people change and grow apart. But if you want to attain your higher self, you have to be okay with that changing as well. So I think that this spread really speaks to being okay with the change and being okay with hard things. Because ultimately it is hard to keep balance. It is hard to limit your drinking and smoking, or limit your junk food intake. Keeping a balance of work and play, and exercise and indulgence, and etc. It can be quite a task to keep your life in that constant state of equality across the board. Most people are tipped either way. So temperance is calling to that equality across the board. And the better we kind of know ourselves and know what's good for us and know what's bad for us, know the difference between right and wrong, the more we can make better choices that align with our values and our right and wrong, and the more we live in alignment with our higher self. But again, we need to drop those negative influences here, and our prejudices and our preconceived notions and our just all these things that are kind of holding us back. Know those, identify those, and drop them. Because we want to be this guy. This is what you want to be when you grow up. So that was another kind of interesting way to do it. I really hope you guys enjoyed that, kind of looking at doing a little spread with the page, and let me know down below what you guys thought of all this and how you would do it. How would you do it? How would you read those cards that I read? And how would the page be affected in that spread for you? Let me know, and if you made it this far in the video, comment a coffin emoji. Coffin emoji if you made it this far, so I can see my true ones down there in the comments. So yeah, you guys, thanks for, really sticking it through with me and going on this wild journey of discovery. Next week we're going to be talking about the page of wands, and we kind of touched on some wands here in this, kind of card pull that we did, and really excited to get into that. So leave below your constructive criticisms, your comments, throw a like on there if you feel like it. It really helps me out. I'm a really tiny channel. I just started, real baby here on YouTube. So even 1 like or 2 likes is like a big deal for me. So I look forward to interacting with you guys down there in the comments section, and let's get the conversation going, shall we?